I watched Jake scroll through his phone during dinner, his face illuminated by the blue glow of the screen. The anniversary card I'd spent an hour picking out sat beside his untouched plate, still sealed in its envelope. "Jake, did you see the card?" He mumbled, not looking up. His thumbs moved rapidly across the screen. "Are you going to open it?" "Yeah, in a sec. Just need to finish this email real quick." I picked at my pasta, that familiar ache settling in my chest. 4 years we'd been together. 4 years. And somewhere along the way, I'd become background noise in his life. "Work deadline?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "Yeah, big project." "Sorry, babe." "Babe." He called me babe now instead of M. When had that changed? I cleared the table while he continued typing. He didn't notice when I left the kitchen. Didn't notice when I changed into my pajamas. Didn't notice when I climbed into bed beside him an hour later, the card still unopened on the dining table. I lay there in the darkness, listening to him snore, and something inside me shifted. I couldn't keep living like this, invisible, unimportant, unloved. I needed him to see me again, to remember what he had, to feel what I felt every single day, that gnawing terror of losing someone. My thoughts drifted to Marcus, my boss at Clearview Marketing. He'd complimented my presentation last week, told me I had real talent. His eyes had actually focused on me when he spoke, like I mattered. The company gala was in 2 days. Jake was supposed to come with me. What if I made Jake jealous? What if I reminded him that other men found me attractive, interesting, worth their attention? It seemed so simple then, lying in the dark. So harmless. Just a little flirtation to shake Jake out of his complacency. To make him fight for me the way I'd been fighting for us. I fell asleep that night thinking I was saving my relationship. I had no idea. I was about to destroy my entire life. The ballroom glittered like something out of a fairy tale. Crystal chandeliers, champagne flowing, everyone dressed in their corporate best. I'd spent 2 hours getting ready, choosing a red dress that hugged my curves perfectly. Jake had barely glanced up from his laptop when I walked out. "You look nice," he'd said absently. "I'll meet you there after my meeting." Nice. I looked nice. I stood by the bar, nursing a glass of wine, when Marcus approached. He wore a perfectly tailored navy suit that made him look like he'd stepped out of a magazine. "Emma, you look absolutely stunning tonight." The warmth in his voice, the way his eyes actually looked at me, really looked, made my heart flutter. "Thank you, Marcus. You clean up pretty well yourself." I touched his arm lightly, letting my hand linger just a second too long. That's when I saw Jake enter through the main doors. His eyes swept the room and landed on us. On my hand on Marcus's arm. On the way, I was smiling up at my boss. His jaw tightened. He actually stopped walking. A thrill shot through me. He noticed. After weeks of being invisible, he finally noticed me. "The venue is incredible," I said to Marcus, leaning in closer than necessary. "The planning committee did an amazing job." They did. "Though I have to say, you're the most beautiful thing in this room." I laughed, touching my hair. "You're too kind." From the corner of my eye, I watched Jake make his way toward us, then stop. He stood talking to someone from accounting, but his attention kept drifting back to where I stood with Marcus. Perfect. Throughout the evening, I stayed close to Marcus. When he told a story about our biggest client, I laughed too loud. When he explained a marketing strategy, I leaned in like he was revealing the secrets of the universe. I played with my necklace, tossed my hair, touched his shoulder. Marcus seemed to enjoy the attention. He was charming, funny, attentive, everything Jake hadn't been in months. Part of me wondered if this was wrong, if I was crossing a line. But I pushed the thought away. It was harmless. Just talking. Just networking. Emma. I turned to find Jake standing there, his expression tight. "Hey, you made it." My voice came out too bright, too cheerful. "Can I talk to you for a minute?" Actually, Marcus and I were just discussing the Henderson project. You know, the one I've been working on? It's really taking off, and Emma. His voice had an edge now. "I'm in the middle of a professional conversation, Jake. Can it wait?" Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "I should probably—" "No, stay," I said quickly, turning back to him with an exaggerated smile. "You were telling me about the pitch strategy." Jake's face went dark. His hands clenched at his sides. "Fine. I'll be by the bar when you're done with your professional conversation." He walked away, his shoulders stiff with anger. I felt a surge of satisfaction, mixed with something else, something that tasted like guilt, but I refused to acknowledge. I'd gotten his attention. Finally. But as the evening wore on and Marcus started checking his watch, and Jake left without saying goodbye, the satisfaction began to curdle in my stomach. What had I just done? My phone buzzed at 2 a.m. I grabbed it desperately, hoping Jake had come home while I was asleep. But the bed beside me was still empty. Jake. Staying at Dave's. We need to talk about boundaries. I stared at the text, anger flaring hot in my chest. Boundaries? He was the one who'd been ignoring me for months. He was the one who forgot our anniversary. He was the one who made me feel so desperate that I stopped that thought. I wasn't desperate. I was fighting for my relationship. There was a difference. I typed back, "We need to talk about you taking me for granted." He didn't respond. I barely slept. By the time Monday morning rolled around, I'd convinced myself I'd done nothing wrong. Jake was overreacting. Marcus and I had just been talking. If Jake felt threatened, well, maybe that's what he needed to wake up. I walked into the office with my head high, ready to face the week. Marcus's assistant stopped me in the hallway. "Marcus wants to see you in his office." My stomach twisted. Now. "Yes." He said it's important. I knocked on his door, my hands suddenly sweaty. "Come in, Emma. Close the door, please." His tone was professional. Cold, even. Nothing like Friday night's warmth. I sat down, my heart pounding. "Emma, about Friday night." He leaned back in his chair, creating distance between us. "I think we should keep things professional going forward. You're a valuable team member, and I don't want any misunderstandings." Heat flooded my face. "Oh, Marcus, I was just being friendly. My boyfriend was there. I didn't mean, I know." His voice was gentle but firm. "I just wanted to clear the air. We're good, right?" "Of course, absolutely. Very professional." "Great. Let's move forward then." I left his office feeling like I'd been slapped. He'd been uncomfortable. I'd made my boss uncomfortable. The realization sat heavy in my chest, but pride kept me from examining it too closely. Our team meeting that afternoon was torture. Marcus directed all his comments to other people. When he had to address me, he did it through email speak. "Emma, could you follow up on that?" No eye contact. No warmth. I'd embarrassed him in front of his colleagues. In front of his wife. His wife. God, I'd barely thought about her. I got home before Jake. He walked in around 6, his duffel bag over his shoulder. "We need to talk," he said. "Fine. Let's talk." "What were you doing with your boss, Emma?" "I was networking." "It's called being professional. Maybe you should try it sometime instead of staring at your phone during dinner." "Don't." His voice was low, dangerous. "Don't turn this around on me. That wasn't professional. That was you trying to make me jealous like we're in high school. Maybe if you paid attention to me, if you remembered our anniversary, if you looked at me the way you used to, I wouldn't need to. So this is my fault?" He dropped his bag, his voice rising. "You flirted with your boss at a company event where everyone could see, and somehow I'm the problem? You've been ignoring me for months. I've been working. I've been stressed. But I didn't humiliate you in public to get your attention. I didn't humiliate. Well, you did. You humiliated yourself, and you humiliated me. And you know what? I don't even know if this is about getting my attention. Maybe this is about you needing attention from anyone who'll give it to you." The words hit like a punch to the gut. "Get out. Emma. Get out." He grabbed his bag and left. The door clicked shut behind him, and I sank onto the couch, my breath coming in ragged gasps. When had everything gone so wrong? When had my plan to save us turned into this nightmare? I cried myself to sleep on the couch that night, Jake's words echoing in my head. Maybe this is about you needing attention from anyone who'll give it to you. Was he right? Was I that pathetic? I was pouring coffee in the break room Wednesday morning when Jennifer appeared beside me. She glanced around, then lowered her voice. "Emma, people are talking." My hand froze, coffee spilling over the rim of my cup. About what? But I already knew. The dread had been building since Monday. About you and Marcus at the gala. Someone said you were all over him. That's not... We were just talking. Lisa from accounting told me his wife was there. She said Claire looked really uncomfortable. His wife. Claire. I'd met her before. Elegant, quiet, always standing supportively beside Marcus at company functions. My stomach turned. I wasn't all over him. We had a conversation. That's it. Jennifer's expression was sympathetic but firm. Look, I'm telling you as a friend. That's not what people saw. And now there's talk. You need to be careful. Careful of what? I didn't do anything wrong. Emma, she touched my arm. Intent doesn't matter. Perception does. And right now, the perception isn't good. She left, and I stood there with my overflowing coffee cup, my hands shaking. The rest of the day was a nightmare. I caught whispered conversations that stopped the moment I walked into a room. Colleagues who usually chatted with me suddenly had urgent emails to send. I felt eyes on me constantly, judging, speculating, condemning. Lisa from accounting gave me a look of pure disgust when I passed her in the hallway. Mark from sales, who'd always been friendly, avoided eye contact. Marcus avoided me entirely. No more casual good mornings when we passed in the hall. No more stopping by my desk to discuss projects. Everything went through email now, formal and distant. Marcus, please send the Henderson report by EOD. Thanks. Not, hi, Emma, or hope you're well. Just cold. Professional distance. Jake's texts were equally sparse. Me, can we please talk? Jake, need time to think. Me, how much time? Jake, don't know. By Friday afternoon, I was a mess. I'd barely eaten all week. I jumped every time someone said my name. I felt exposed, raw, like everyone could see inside me, and was disgusted by what they found. Then the email came. From HR department subject. Meeting request. Dear Emma, please schedule a meeting with Director Patterson at your earliest convenience regarding a workplace conduct matter. This is time sensitive. Best regards, HR. My hands shook so badly I could barely hold my phone. A workplace conduct matter. They were investigating me. This couldn't be happening. I just talked to my boss. That wasn't a crime. People talked at company events all the time. But deep down, beneath the defensive panic, I knew the truth. I'd crossed lines. I'd used Marcus to manipulate Jake. I'd made people uncomfortable. I'd weaponized a professional relationship for personal drama, and now I was going to pay for it. I scheduled the meeting for Monday morning, then spent the entire weekend in my empty apartment. Jake still hadn't come home, alternating between rage and terror. This would blow over. It had to. They couldn't fire me for having a conversation, could they? Director Patterson's office was small and windowless, with harsh fluorescent lighting that made everything feel cold and clinical. She sat across from me with a manila folder and an expression that offered absolutely no warmth. Thank you for coming in, Emma. I'll get straight to the point. We've received reports of inappropriate behavior between you and Marcus Bellamy at the company gala. Several employees witnessed what they described as flirtatious conduct. Additionally, Marcus's wife reached out to us with concerns. The room tilted. It was nothing. We were just talking. I didn't mean anything by it. Marcus has provided a statement indicating that he spoke with you on Monday about maintaining professional boundaries. Is that accurate? My throat felt like sandpaper. Yes, but we also have security footage from the gala. She turned her laptop toward me. I watched myself on screen. Without sound, without context, the footage was damning. There I was, touching Marcus's arm, leaning in close while he spoke. Following him across the room, laughing too loud, playing with my hair, my body language screaming interest. I looked like a woman pursuing her boss. Like someone crossing professional boundaries in the most public way possible. Oh my God, I whispered. This behavior creates a hostile work environment, Director Patterson continued, her voice matter of fact. It puts the company at risk for harassment claims. Marcus is in a position of authority over you. Whether or not he encouraged this attention, and he's been clear that he did not, your actions were inappropriate and put him in an extremely difficult position. But I didn't mean my boyfriend was there. I was just trying to... I stopped, the words dying in my throat. How could I explain? How could I tell her I was trying to make my boyfriend jealous by using my boss as a prop? How pathetic would that sound? Your intentions don't change the impact, Emma. We've reviewed the situation thoroughly, and we've decided to terminate your employment, effective immediately. You'll receive 2 weeks severance pay. Security will escort you to collect your personal belongings. The words didn't make sense. Terminate. Fired. This couldn't be real. You're firing me? Marcus didn't even report me. His wife did. And once we reviewed the security footage and spoke with witnesses, it became clear your behavior violated our code of conduct. I'm sorry, Emma, this decision is final. This is insane. I didn't harass anyone. We just talked. The meeting is over. Please collect your things. I stumbled out of her office in a daze. The hallway seemed impossibly long. Every step felt like I was wading through water. Jennifer stood by my desk, her face full of pity. A security guard I'd seen 1,000 times but never spoken to waited beside her, his expression professional but kind. I'm sorry, Emma, Jennifer whispered. I couldn't respond. I pulled open my desk drawers with shaking hands, throwing things into a cardboard box someone had provided. My mug, my framed photo of Jake and me from last year's vacation, my stress ball, my collection of good pens, 4 years of my career packed into a single box. Everyone pretended not to watch, but I felt their eyes, heard the whispers, saw the judgment. Lisa from accounting looked almost gleeful. The security guard walked me to my car. He was kind about it, didn't rush me, but it didn't matter. I was being escorted out like a criminal. I sat in the parking lot and pulled out my phone with trembling fingers. Me. Lost my job. Can we please talk? I watched the screen, desperate for his response. For him to tell me it would be okay. That we'd get through this together. An hour passed. Then, Jake. I'm sorry that happened, but we need space right now. This whole situation is too much. I read the message again and again, each word like a knife. Space. The whole situation. Too much. He wasn't coming back. He'd watched me destroy myself, and now he was walking away. I sat in my car and sobbed until I couldn't breathe. I'd lost everything. My job, my reputation, my boyfriend, my dignity, all because I'd been too insecure to have an honest conversation. Too proud to admit I needed help. Too desperate to see that I was burning down my own life. The rejection emails started coming within days. I'd applied to 15 marketing positions, leveraging every contact I had in the industry. But word traveled fast in our city's tight-knit marketing community. Thank you for your interest, but we've decided to move forward with other candidates. We appreciate your application, but the position has been filled. After careful consideration, we don't think you're the right fit at this time. The polite lies stung worse than outright rejection. I was sitting at my laptop, reading yet another rejection, when I heard the key turn in the lock. My heart leaped. Jake was home, but when I rushed to the living room, he wasn't there. The key sat on the entry table, and through the window, I watched his car pull away. He'd taken his things while I was out at a job interview. I walked through the apartment in a daze, opening drawers and closets, cataloging the empty spaces. His clothes, his toiletries, his books, his coffee mug. On the kitchen counter, he'd left a note. I need to be honest. I can't do this anymore. What happened showed me we've grown apart. You've changed, Em. Or maybe I just finally saw who you really are. I hope you find whatever you're looking for. Take care of yourself. Jake, who you really are. I read those words until they blurred, until I'd memorized every loop of his handwriting. Was this who I really was? The person who manipulated people? Who destroyed her own life out of insecurity? Who hurt innocent people in her desperate attempt to feel loved? My mother started calling daily. Emma, just move back home. You can start over here. I'm fine, Mom. You don't sound fine. Let me help you. I don't need help. I need a job. I couldn't face her. Couldn't admit that I'd thrown away everything she'd worked so hard to help me achieve. She'd sacrificed to put me through college. Believed in me when I said I wanted a career in marketing. Celebrated every promotion. How could I tell her I'd gotten fired for flirting with my boss to make my boyfriend jealous? I spent my days applying for jobs and my nights torturing myself on social media. I knew I should stop looking, but I couldn't help it. Marcus's wife, Claire, posted photos from a beach vacation. She and Marcus smiled at the camera, his arm around her waist, both of them glowing with happiness. Claire, grateful for this man and our strong foundation. 20 years and counting, blessed beyond measure and stronger together 20 years. They'd been married 20 years, and I'd been a blip. A brief, uncomfortable moment in their life story that they'd already moved past. I kept scrolling. Then I saw it. Jake's Instagram story. He was at a coffee shop with a woman I didn't recognize. She was petite with bright eyes and a genuine smile. Her hand rested on his arm, casual, comfortable. The next slide showed them on a hiking trail, the mountains spread out behind them. The trail I'd been begging him to visit with me for months. New adventures with new people, the caption read. 3 weeks. It had been 3 weeks since he moved out. 3 weeks, and he'd already replaced me. The pain was physical, sharp and breathless. I doubled over on my couch, my phone clutched in my hand, looking at the evidence that I was replaceable. That 4 years together meant nothing. That he'd moved on like I was just another chapter in his life, easily closed. I couldn't eat. Food tasted like ash. I lost 10 pounds in 2 weeks. My savings account dwindled as rent came due. I applied for unemployment, which felt like another humiliation. I was drowning, and there was no one to save me. No one but myself, and I didn't know if I was worth saving. The eviction notice came 3 months after I lost my job. I'd been surviving on unemployment and my dwindling savings, but it wasn't enough. I sat on my floor, surrounded by past due bills, and dialed the number I'd been avoiding. Mom, I need help. 2 days later, I moved back into my childhood bedroom. At 26 years old, I was back where I'd started, sleeping under the same roof where I'd dreamed about my future. The irony was crushing. My mother didn't say, "I told you so." She didn't have to. I saw it in her eyes every time she looked at me. Disappointment, worry, confusion about who her daughter had become. I took a job at Save Mart grocery store. Minimum wage. Stocking shelves and running the register. The orientation video told me to smile and serve like it was a privilege to work there. My first shift, I wore a green vest with a name tag and scanned groceries for 8 hours straight. My feet ached. My back hurt. But worse than the physical pain was seeing someone I knew. Rachel from my old office came through my line. She'd been in sales, always friendly, always invited me to happy hours. Now she loaded her groceries onto my conveyor belt and avoided eye contact. "Hi, Rachel?" "Oh, Emma. Hi." She looked uncomfortable. "How are you?" "Living the dream." I scanned her yogurt, her bread, her wine. $22.50. She paid quickly and left. I watched her go, knowing she'd text someone the moment she got to her car. You'll never guess who I just saw at Save Mart. The encounters kept coming. Mark from sales, Tom from IT. People who'd once been my peers, who'd respected me, who'd laughed at my jokes in the break room. Now they saw me in a green vest and looked away. Then Jennifer came through my line. "Emma." "Hey." She looked genuinely uncomfortable. "How are you?" "I'm great. Really great." I scanned her items mechanically. $34.75. "I'm sorry about everything that happened. For what it's worth, I think they overreacted. You deserved a warning, not termination." Something inside me snapped. Did they? Did they overreact? She blinked, surprised. "I used my boss to manipulate my boyfriend," I continued, my voice flat. "I made everyone at that gala uncomfortable. I put Marcus in an impossible position. I hurt his wife. I earned exactly what I got." Jennifer didn't argue. She paid, took her bags, and left. I was grateful she hadn't tried to make me feel better. I didn't deserve to feel better. That night, I lay in my childhood bed, the same one I'd slept in as a teenager, and stared at the glow-in-the-dark stars on my ceiling. Stars I'd put up when I was 14 and dreaming about my future. I'd been so sure I'd make something of myself. So confident I'd escape this town, build a career, find love, matter. Now I was back where I started. With nothing to show for the past decade but a cardboard box of office supplies and a hard lesson about who I really was. For the first time since everything fell apart, I let myself think clearly. I'd been so focused on Jake's neglect, on his distance, on his failure to make me feel loved. But I'd never asked myself the harder question. Why did I need his validation so desperately? Why wasn't my own love for myself enough? I'd built my entire identity around being Jake's girlfriend, the successful marketing coordinator, the girl who had it together. When those things felt threatened, I'd panicked. I'd made choices that weren't just mistakes. They were desperate acts of someone who didn't know who she was without external validation. I remembered Marcus's discomfort when I'd leaned too close. Claire's hurt when she saw the footage. My colleague's judgment. Jennifer's pity. I'd dragged innocent people into my dysfunction. I'd treated Marcus like a prop in my relationship drama, never considering his feelings, his marriage, his dignity. I'd humiliated Jake at his workplace event. I'd made spectacle of my insecurity. The shame was overwhelming. But beneath it, something else emerged. Something small and fragile, but real. Clarity. I couldn't change what I'd done. I couldn't take back the pain I'd caused or the bridges I'd burned. But I could change who I was becoming. I could start asking better questions. I could stop running from the truth about myself. I got up and pulled out a notebook, my old journal from high school. I started writing, "Dear Marcus and Claire, I'm sorry. I used you, disrespected your marriage, and made you uncomfortable at an event that should have been professional and enjoyable. My insecurity and poor judgment hurt you, and I will carry that regret. You don't owe me forgiveness, but I needed you to know I understand what I did wrong. Dear Jake, I'm sorry I tried to manipulate you. You deserved honesty, not games. You deserved a partner who could communicate her needs, not someone who weaponized jealousy. I hope you find happiness with someone better than who I was. Dear Jennifer, thank you for being kind when I didn't deserve kindness. Thank you for trying to warn me. I'm sorry I didn't listen. I didn't mail the letters. They weren't for them, they were for me. Admissions of guilt. Acknowledgements of harm. The first steps toward becoming someone I could respect. It wasn't much. But it was a beginning. 6 months after losing my job, I enrolled in community college. Business ethics, psychology, interpersonal communication. The classes were humbling. I sat beside 18-year-olds just starting their lives while I tried to rebuild mine. But I needed this. I needed to understand myself, to learn what I'd never learned. How to value myself without external validation. I also started therapy. I'm here because I destroyed my entire life in about a week, I told Dr. Morrison at our first session. And I want to make sure I never do it again. She was in her 50s, with kind eyes and a way of asking questions that made me actually think instead of just defending myself. Tell me about your relationship with Jake, she said during our third session. I did. I told her about the 4 years together, the slow drift apart, the way I'd felt myself disappearing. You've tied your value to other people's perceptions, she explained. When Jake pulled away, you felt like you were disappearing, so you tried to make yourself visible again through his jealousy. But that's not visibility, that's desperation. She was right. I'd never learned to validate myself. My mother's love had always been conditional. Good grades, good choices, good behavior. Jake's attention had felt like proof I was worth something. My career success had been the evidence I mattered. When those things wavered, I had nothing left. No internal foundation, no sense of self that existed independent of others' approval. Who are you without Jake? Dr. Morrison asked. I didn't know. That was the terrifying truth. I had no idea who Emma was when she wasn't someone's girlfriend, someone's employee, someone's daughter. I guess that's what I need to figure out, I said. I deleted social media. All of it, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, gone. At first, the silence was uncomfortable. I'd reach for my phone out of habit, then remember there was nothing to check. No one to compare myself to. No way to measure my worth against someone else's curated life. But slowly, the silence became liberating. I volunteered at a women's shelter on weekends. The women there had lost everything, some to abuse, some to addiction, some to circumstances beyond their control. Their stories put mine in perspective. I'd destroyed my own life through poor choices, yes. But I could rebuild. I had that privilege. We were all works in progress. All broken in different ways. All trying to become whole. One Saturday afternoon, a year after my firing, I was stocking shelves in the produce section when someone cleared their throat behind me. I turned. Marcus stood there with a shopping basket. My heart stopped. Heat flooded my face. Every instinct screamed at me to run, to hide, to disappear. Emma? Hi? Hi. My voice came out barely above a whisper. I heard you were working here. How are you? The question seemed absurd. How was I? I was stocking oranges for $8 an hour while my former boss looked at me with something that might have been pity. I'm better than I was. I forced myself to meet his eyes. Marcus, I owe you an apology. What I did at the gala was wrong. I used you to manipulate my boyfriend. I made you uncomfortable. I hurt your wife. I'm deeply sorry. He was quiet for a moment, studying me. I appreciate that, he finally said. It was a difficult time for Claire and me, but we worked through it. Our marriage is stronger now, actually. Sometimes challenges do that. I'm glad. I meant it. I hope she's well. She is. Thank you, he paused. I hope you're finding your way, Emma. You were talented. I hope you get another chance to use those skills. I'm trying. My voice cracked. I'm really trying. That's all any of us can do. He gave me a small, kind smile. Take care of yourself. He walked away, and I stood there among the produce, oranges in my hands, tears streaming down my face. It wasn't forgiveness exactly, but it was acknowledgement. It was closure. I finished my shift, then went to the stockroom and cried. But these were different tears. Not shame. Not regret. Relief. The weight of what I'd done would never fully lift. I'd carry it forever, the memory of hurting people, of destroying my own life, of being that person. But I was learning to carry it differently. Not as a burden that crushed me, but as a reminder. A scar that taught me something. I was learning to be Emma, not Jake's girlfriend. Not the rising marketing star. Not my mother's perfect daughter. Just Emma. Flawed. Learning. Growing. It would have to be enough. It was all I had. 18 months after my termination, I completed my business ethics certification with honors. The certificate sat on my childhood bedroom wall, proof that I was committed to being different, to being better. I'd also been promoted to assistant manager at Save Mart. It wasn't glamorous, but it was progress. Small steps. Forward motion. I was restocking the organic section on a Tuesday afternoon when I heard a voice I'd once known better than my own. Emma? I turned around, an apple in each hand. Jake stood there with a woman. She was petite and pretty, with an easy smile and confident posture. This had to be Melissa. She looked exactly like the kind of person Jake would choose. Uncomplicated, cheerful, whole. Jake. My voice came out steadier than I expected. Hi. The awkwardness hung between us like fog. Melissa looked from Jake to me, clearly aware of who I was. You look good, Jake said. Different. I am different. It was true. I'd cut my hair short, a pixie cut that my mother hated but I loved. I'd stopped wearing makeup every day. I'd stopped trying to be what anyone else wanted. I looked like myself now, whoever that was. I heard you went back to school. That's great, Em. Yeah. Learning things I should have known before. I glanced at Melissa. You must be Melissa. It's nice to meet you, she smiled cautiously. You too. Jake shifted his weight, uncomfortable. Listen, Em, I've been thinking about reaching out. I wanted to say I'm sorry for how I handled things before everything happened. I was distant. I took you for granted. That doesn't excuse what you did, but I played a part in why you felt so insecure. The apology I desperately wanted 18 months ago landed flat now. Not because it wasn't genuine, I could see it was, but because I didn't need it anymore. My healing had stopped being about Jake's acknowledgement months ago. Thank you for saying that, I replied carefully. But honestly, Jake, what I did was on me. You didn't make me flirt with my boss. You didn't make me manipulate the situation. I did that because I didn't know how to handle my feelings like an adult. I'm sorry I put you through that, he looked surprised. Maybe the old Emma, the one who always found ways to deflect blame, to make her pain someone else's responsibility, wouldn't have said that. I appreciate that, he said quietly. I hope you're happy, I continued, meaning it. I looked at Melissa. Both of you. I really do, Melissa's expression softened. Thank you. That's kind of you, Jake nodded. I hope you find happiness too, Em. You deserve it. They paid for their groceries and left. I watched them go, saw the way Melissa touched Jake's back, the way he smiled down at her, easy, uncomplicated, real. I waited for the pain, for the jealousy, for the familiar ache of loss. But it didn't come. I stood there in my green vest, surrounded by organic vegetables, and realized something profound. I didn't hurt anymore. Seeing them together didn't tear me apart. Watching Jake love someone else didn't make me feel like I was disappearing. I'd finally let go. Not because I'd stopped caring, but because I'd started caring about myself more. Because I'd learned that my worth wasn't tied to Jake's love, to any man's attention, to anyone's validation but my own. I finished my shift with a lightness I hadn't felt in years. On the drive home, I called my mother. Mom, you asked if I wanted to have dinner Sunday. Is that still okay? Of course, sweetheart. Are you all right? Yeah, I smiled. I think I actually am. 2 years after my termination from Clearview Marketing, I received an email that made me read the sender's name 3 times to believe it was real. Jennifer Park. Subject: Job opportunity, Emma. I hope you're well. A small nonprofit marketing firm I know is looking for someone with a unique perspective on professional ethics and workplace culture. They're doing important work helping organizations recover from scandals and rebuild trust. I immediately thought of you. If you're interested, I can make an introduction. Let me know. Jen, my hands shook as I typed my response. The interview was 3 days later. I walked into the small office building wearing my best interview outfit, the one I'd saved from my old life, and met Amara Singh, the director. She was in her 40s with sharp eyes and a warm presence. She got right to the point. Tell me about your professional history, Emma. This was the moment I'd been dreading. The moment where I'd have to decide whether to lie, to omit, to present a sanitized version of my past. I chose truth. I made serious professional mistakes that cost me my career, I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. I let personal insecurity drive unprofessional behavior. I hurt people, my boss, his wife, my colleagues. I was terminated, and I deserved it. I learned the hardest way possible that integrity isn't negotiable and that our actions affect others in ways we don't always consider. Amara leaned forward. Tell me what you learned, so I did. I told her about the therapy, the ethics courses, the volunteering. I explained my daily practice of checking my motivations before I acted, of considering others' perspectives, of asking myself whether I was operating from fear or from authenticity. I told her about the ripple effects of selfish actions, about how one night of poor judgment had affected Marcus's marriage, Claire's sense of safety, my colleagues' workplace environment, about how I'd had to rebuild myself from nothing because I'd burned everything down. You're hired, she said. I stared at her. I'm sorry, what? We work with organizations recovering from ethical scandals. We help them rebuild trust, create accountability systems, train staff on recognizing ethical boundaries. I need people who've genuinely grappled with failure and come out committed to doing better. You've done that work, Emma. Your past mistake doesn't disqualify you. Your response to it qualifies you. I cried in the parking lot after accepting the position. Someone was giving me a chance. Someone saw value in my hard-won lessons. The work was meaningful in ways my old job never had been. I helped companies create genuine accountability systems instead of just checking compliance boxes. I trained employees on recognizing ethical boundaries, not from a textbook, but from lived experience. I shared my story in workshops, not for sympathy, but as a cautionary tale. I stood at a company gala and used my boss to make my boyfriend jealous. I told a room of 50 employees at a tech startup. I didn't think about how my actions would affect him, his wife, my colleagues, or my career. I only thought about my own pain and my desperate need for validation. That's what happens when we operate from insecurity instead of integrity. We hurt people, we hurt ourselves, and we live with those consequences. The work was hard, humbling, but real. One evening, 3 years after my world had collapsed, I stood in my small apartment, my own place again, not my mother's house, and looked at my reflection in the bathroom mirror. I saw someone who'd fallen apart completely and rebuilt herself piece by piece. Someone who'd lost everything and discovered she could survive with nothing. Someone who'd hurt others and learned to make amends through action, not just words. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. Mom, proud of you, sweetheart. See you for dinner Sunday? Me, wouldn't miss it. Love you. Our relationship had healed too. She saw me now, really saw me, not just her expectations of who I should be. And I saw her. A woman who'd done her best, who loved me even when disappointed, who'd given me space to fail and room to grow. I'd never get back what I'd lost. Jennifer had mentioned casually last week that Jake and Melissa were engaged. Marcus had been promoted to VP, just as I'd predicted. My former colleagues had all moved on with their lives and careers, probably rarely thinking about the girl who'd gotten fired. But I had something more valuable than what I'd lost. I had myself. The real me. Not the desperate, insecure girl who'd manipulated people for attention. Not the perfect daughter or perfect girlfriend or rising corporate star. Just Emma. Imperfect, still learning, still growing. But authentic, real, mine. My phone buzzed again. A text from a number I didn't recognize. Unknown. This is Claire Bellamy. Jennifer gave me your number. I wanted you to know I appreciated your apology to Marcus. It took courage. I hope you're doing well. I stared at the message for a long time, tears streaming down my face. Then I typed me. Thank you. That means more than you know. I hope you and Marcus are happy. You deserve that. Her response came quickly. Claire, we are. And so do you. Take care, Emma. I sat on my couch, phone in hand, and let the tears fall. Not from sadness or regret, though those feelings still lived in me, but from something else. Something that felt like grace. The life I was living wasn't the life I'd planned. I wasn't the marketing director I'd once dreamed of becoming. I'd never get those 4 years with Jake back. I'd carry the weight of my mistakes forever. But this life, built on truth instead of desperation, on authenticity instead of validation seeking, on slow growth instead of quick wins, this life was better because it was mine. Really mine, and I was finally enough, the end.